In 1956, Fortune magazine gave one street in Atlanta, Georgia, a title no other black neighborhood in America had ever held, the richest black business street in the country. 15 years later, that same street was a fraction of its former size. This video is 10 streets like that one. American blocks that built banks, hospitals, and millionaires out of nothing, and 10 different systems, from highway routes to lending contracts, that made sure those communities couldn't keep what they built. Let's count it down from number 10. Number 10, Beale Street, Memphis, Tennessee. In 1906, a formerly enslaved man named Robert Reed Church Sr. opened Solvent Savings Bank on this street, becoming, by most historical accounts, the first black-owned bank founder in the state of Tennessee. Church had already built hotels, theaters, and a public park on Beale Street at a time when Memphis city parks refused black visitors entirely. The songwriter William Christopher Handy worked steps away, and the song he wrote about this exact street, Beale Street Blues, is credited with helping name an entire American musical genre. 60 years later, in 1965, the city of Memphis approved the Beale Street Urban Renewal Project. 625 buildings stood on Beale Street before that project began. By 1979, 65 remained. Roughly 1,500 residents were displaced in the process. 3 years into the project, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated at the Lorraine Motel, a few blocks from this street, and whatever commerce still clung to Beale Street after the bulldozers finished largely evaporated overnight. Number 9. Central Avenue, Los Angeles, California. Through the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s, racially restrictive covenants, legally binding clauses written directly into property deeds across Los Angeles, blocked black families from buying homes in nearly every neighborhood in the city except this 4-mile stretch of Central Avenue. Every black doctor, every black attorney, every touring black musician who came through Los Angeles ended up on the same 20 blocks, whether they wanted to or not. Duke Ellington's orchestra stayed at the Dunbar Hotel here. Count Basie's did too. In 1948, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Shelley versus Kramer that these covenants could no longer be enforced. Freedom, ironically, is what broke Central Avenue apart. The professionals who had been legally confined to this corridor for 2 generations finally scattered across the city, and the concentration that had made the street so culturally powerful simply dissolved with them. Number 8. The Fillmore District, San Francisco, California. In 1942, the United States government forcibly removed Japanese American families from the Fillmore District into internment camps. The homes they left behind sat empty during a wartime labor shortage, right as black workers were arriving in San Francisco by the thousands for jobs in the shipyards. By the late 1940s, the Fillmore had more than a dozen jazz clubs hosting performers like John Coltrane and Billie Holiday, earning it the nickname the Harlem of the West. In 1949, Congress passed the Federal Housing Act, giving city governments money to demolish anything labeled a slum, and San Francisco's own redevelopment agency aimed that program squarely at the Fillmore. Census records show San Francisco's black population at roughly 13% of the city in 1970. By the 2020 census, it had fallen below 6%, the only major demographic group in San Francisco that has declined in every single census count since. Number 7. Hastings Street, Detroit, Michigan. A city planning map from 1950s, Detroit shows a proposed freeway route drawn in a straight line directly through a residential neighborhood called Black Bottom and its adjoining entertainment district, Paradise Valley, anchored by Hastings Street. Nearby white neighborhoods on the same map get curved around. This route was chosen, not discovered by historians decades later. It's documented in the planning records themselves. When Interstate 375 was completed, over 8,000 black residents were displaced, and Hastings Street, where B.B. King performed and where singer Dinah Washington grew up nearby, was erased from the map entirely. The families who scattered into other Detroit neighborhoods found blockbusting real estate agents waiting for them there too, warning white residents that black homebuyers would collapse their property values. Detroit shifted from 85% white in 1950 to over 75% black by the 1990s. Motown Records, founded by Berry Gordy in this same city, relocated its headquarters to Los Angeles in 1972. Number 6. Auburn Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia. That Fortune magazine headline from the opening of this video, "The richest black street in the world," was written about this exact street in 1956. At the time, Auburn Avenue held the headquarters of Atlanta Life Insurance Company, founded by Alonzo Herndon, a man born enslaved who died a millionaire. It held Citizens Trust Bank, still operating in Atlanta today. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on this street, preached at Ebenezer Baptist Church a few doors down, and is buried here now. Segregation, the very system designed to punish Black Atlantans, is what forced this level of self-sufficiency into existence. Every dollar earned had nowhere else to go. When legal segregation ended in the 1960s and Black Atlantans could finally spend money at downtown white-owned stores, some Auburn Avenue businesses lost the guaranteed customer base segregation had given them for decades. New highways built through the same period accelerated white residents toward Buckhead and Sandy Springs, and by 1980, Sweet Auburn, as locals called it, was a fraction of its former size. Number 5. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, Bronzeville, Chicago, Illinois. A 2023 Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago research paper studied exactly this neighborhood and found that real estate speculators known as blockbusters resold homes to incoming Black families through predatory installment contracts priced, on average, 45% above market value. Historians call Bronzeville the Black metropolis because between the 1910s and 1950s, it functioned almost like a separate city within Chicago's South Side. Its own hospitals, its own hotels, its own newspaper in the Chicago Defender, one of the most influential Black publications in American history. Poet Gwendolyn Brooks wrote much of her early work in this neighborhood. Novelist Richard Wright wrote Native Son here. What Bronzeville built on top of that predatory lending was real political power. This community helped elect Harold Washington as Chicago's first Black mayor in 1983. Number 4. U Street, Washington, D.C., 6 blocks from this street, in 1899, a boy named Duke Ellington was born. He played some of his earliest professional shows right here. Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, and Cab Calloway performed on this corridor so regularly that Washingtonians started calling it Black Broadway, and the nickname wasn't marketing, it was simply true. Howard University sits at the northern edge of the street. Industrial Bank, founded in 1934, is the oldest Black-owned bank still operating in Washington, D.C. today. White Washingtonians barely had to try to avoid U Street. The entire segregated city was already built to give them everything this corridor offered, somewhere else. That equilibrium shattered on April 4, 1968, the night Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis. 4 days of uprising centered on the intersection of 14th Street and U Street destroyed decades of Black-owned businesses. One survived without ever closing its doors, not even during those 4 nights. Ben's Chili Bowl, open on this street since 1958. Number 3. Greenwood Avenue, Tulsa, Oklahoma. By 1921, the Greenwood District held more than 300 Black-owned businesses across 35 city blocks. A hospital, a school, law offices, its own public bus system. Built almost entirely from nothing by people who had arrived in Oklahoma with almost no capital at all. On the night of May 31st, 1921, a white mob, joined in places by local law enforcement, burned every one of those 35 blocks to the ground in under 24 hours. Estimates of the dead range from 100 to 300 people. More than 8,000 residents lost their homes that single night. Survivors were confined afterward in internment camps run by the Oklahoma National Guard, and every insurance claim they filed was denied. The state of Oklahoma didn't formally investigate what happened until 1996. A commission confirmed survivor accounts in 2001 and recommended reparations. Oklahoma declined to pay them. National news coverage of the massacre only arrived at scale in 2021, on its 100th anniversary. Number 2. 125th Street, Harlem, Manhattan, New York City. The Apollo Theater has stood on this street since 1934. Malcolm X gave public speeches on this corner. From the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s through the late 1980s, this neighborhood remained over 90% Black, concentrated here in large part by decades of federal redlining that blocked Black families from buying homes almost anywhere else in New York City. That concentration produced Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr., who represented this district in the United States House of Representatives for more than a quarter century. Television news coverage through the 1980s leaned almost entirely on crime statistics from the era's crack cocaine epidemic, while largely ignoring a second cultural movement happening on these same blocks. poetry readings at the New York Poets Cafe, and a new musical genre taking shape in nearby parks that the world would soon know as hip-hop. Number 1. Avalon Boulevard, Compton, California. Before any of what most people associate with Compton existed, this city was 95% white, with an active Mormon congregation, and had legally binding property covenants that explicitly barred black homeownership. Those covenants were struck down by the Supreme Court in 1948, and black families, many working as aerospace engineers, nurses, and school teachers, began buying homes along Avalon Boulevard, the city's central commercial street. One of those early residents, interviewed years later by National Public Radio, described his family's move to Compton as feeling like arriving in another world entirely. Orange trees in the backyard, quiet streets, a real suburb after years in crowded urban housing. His mother worked as an X-ray technician. His stepfather worked in the aerospace industry. What changed Compton's future wasn't who moved in. It was blockbusting agents manufacturing panic among white sellers, the 1965 Watts uprising giving hesitant white families a final push to leave, and neighboring cities like Lakewood and Carson actively courting them with new highways and housing incentives built at the exact same time. 10 streets, 3 coasts. A century of American history, and underneath every single one, the same quiet mechanism at work. A law, a highway route, a redevelopment budget, or a lending contract, each written by someone with the power to decide what a black community was allowed to keep. Beale Street still plays live music every night. Auburn Avenue is a federally protected National Historic Landmark District. Bronzeville's century-old brownstones are selling again. None of these streets disappeared. They just kept surviving decisions that were never made in their favor. If one of these caught you off guard, tell me which one in the comments. And if your city has a street with a history like this, name it below.